Well, good afternoon, and I would encourage you all to take a seat. We have a great an exciting event taking place here in a couple minutes. My name is Dale Wallstrom, President and CEO of LifeScience Alley and the BioBusiness Alliance of Minnesota. Welcome to the afternoon general session. We are delighted once again to thank the province of Manitoba and B&D Consulting for being our premier sponsors of the conference. In October, I had a great opportunity. I traveled to Korea and Japan with Governor Dayton on a trade mission. Our governor, I'm happy to tell you, did an absolutely masterful job in helping us to address some very challenging issues for the U.S. medical device industry in Korea. And he also helped open up dialogue and advance our dialogue with our developing partners in Japan. It is great to have an industry advocate like this working for us in our Minnesota companies, our life science industry, and we're so pleased that Governor Dayton is able to spend a few minutes with us today. So it is now my very distinct honor to introduce Governor Mark Dayton, the Governor of the great state of Minnesota.
Thank you very much, Dale, for that gracious introduction, and it was a real pleasure having you on what was my first trade mission as governor, and I'm glad that we were able to be helpful in getting you face-to-face with the Korean Minister of Trade, which is exactly the kind of access that those trade missions are supposed to provide. And there's no one more important for me to be helping than Minnesota's life science industry. Your contributions to the betterment of our state, our nation, and our world are almost countless. Conventional statistics tell only part of the story. We know that your members employ over 250,000 Minnesotans. We know that according to CMS, total health expenditures comprised 17.6% of national GDP in 2009. The private health insurance expenditures accounted for 32% of that $2.5 trillion total. Medicare accounted for 20% and Medicaid 15%. Some of that increasing share of health care in our nation's economy is cause for concern, especially in the public sector's rate of growth. In Medicare spending, for example, which grew by almost 8% from the previous year, and Medicaid, which increased by 9%. And I can attest from the state of Minnesota's budget that those large increases, which are projected to continue throughout this decade, are consuming increasing amounts of every public dollar and placing severe pressures on state and federal budgets. On the other hand, longer and better lives are what human beings have been striving for throughout recorded history, going back to the pharaohs and the Chinese emperors, whose medical and scientific retinues were tasked with finding the magic elixir for eternal lives, and often lost their own lives when they failed to deliver. So you could be grateful at least you're not operating under those pressures. The Congressional Budget Office has found that, quote, about half of all growth in healthcare spending in the past several decades was associated with changes in medical care made possible by advances in technology. If people want to spend their money on an improved heart or an artificial hip, aren't they arguably more beneficial expenditures than another electronic gadget or a new set of irons? When I met a few years ago with the deputy mayor of Shanghai in China, I asked him if he knew where Minnesota was. He smiled, he tapped his chest, and he said, Medtronic. When I asked the same question of the foreign minister of Jordan, he replied that he had spent several months in Rochester where, quote, the Mayo Clinic cured my father of cancer. Those are contributions to individual lives and to world relations which cannot be quantified, for they are, as MasterCard would say, priceless. And the increased national expenditures for health provide opportunities for Minnesota companies, just as increased world health expenditures provide opportunities for all American companies to grow and create more jobs jobs that our state and our nation seriously need. You are the leaders who will capitalize on those opportunities and help the rest of us to realize the benefits of your superior entrepreneurship and innovation. I want the state of Minnesota to do everything possible to assist and support your success. State funding for the Bio-Business Alliance was one source of support, although unfortunately that appropriation was reduced for this biennium due to the state's budget crisis. I'll make it a priority to reverse that in the next budget session. Thank you. Anytime you want to interrupt with applause, please feel free to go ahead with this. We did provide $51 million in bonding for a new physics and nanotechnology building at the University of Minnesota, had broad bipartisan support, as well as $42 million for a new science building at the St. Cloud State University. I've told President Kaler and Chancellor Rosenstone, no more money for mediocrity. Let's identify the areas where Minnesota higher education must be excellent and preeminent for our future social benefit and our economic prosperity, and then we'll fund them. Similarly, in a bipartisan way, we will increase the funding for the angel investor tax credit to encourage more private investments in your and other companies. And I oppose, and I will continue to oppose, policies such as the legislatively proposed ban on stem cell research, which would send Minnesota backwards in our drive for life science preeminence. By contrast, today's partnership memorandum of understanding between LifeScience Alley and the FDA Center for Device and Radiological Health is an important step forward. It is the first of its kind and positions the Minnesota medical device community as a key partner with FDA in the development of its regulatory science strategy. Hopefully, it will provide the foundation for a strong and effective public-private partnership, as well as the possibility of a national center at the University of Minnesota. I spoke earlier today with the University of Minnesota President Kaler, and he said he's very excited about what might result from all of you and him working together. So I want to thank you for your important contributions to our state of Minnesota and to our country and to our world. I want to thank you, those of you who are here, for your presence in Minnesota, and I want to say to those of you who are not that we welcome your coming anytime. So please let me know what I can do to help your continued success. Thank you very much.